Welcome back to The Life with the Browns. 3 words have finally cracked the polished facade Robyn Brown has spent years perfecting. Words that didn't come from a tabloid, a blogger, or a so-called insider, but from the last woman anyone expected to break her silence. Janelle Brown. The wife who stayed calm while storms raged. The woman who endured quietly, took the high road publicly, and rarely engaged in chaos has now pulled back the curtain on what she claims is Robyn's most calculated move yet. According to Janelle, Robyn allegedly attempted to force non-disclosure agreements on her sister wives, legal documents designed to bind them into silence about what really happened inside the Brown family. Pause on that for a second. We're not talking about business partners protecting trade secrets. We're talking about a plural family. Women who shared a husband. Women who raised children together. Women who stood side by side on national television for over a decade. This wasn't about protecting the family. This was about controlling the narrative. And Janelle, after years of restraint, has finally had enough. The timing of this revelation could not be more devastating for Robyn's carefully curated image. For years, she has positioned herself as the innocent party, the misunderstood wife who just wanted peace, the woman forever caught in the crossfire of everyone else's dysfunction. But whispers from those close to the family have long suggested that image was more illusion than reality. Now, Janelle is confirming what fans have suspected all along. One insider put it bluntly, she always played the victim while pulling every string behind the scenes. And when someone who lived inside that dynamic for decades finally speaks, every word carries weight. What makes this alleged exposure especially damning is what it reveals about Robyn's priorities. According to multiple reports, this was not about protecting the Brown children from scrutiny. It wasn't about shielding the family from tabloids or public backlash. It was allegedly about making sure whatever happened behind closed doors stayed buried, locked away, controlled, filtered through Robyn's version of events. Let's translate what an NDA inside a family actually means. It means someone is afraid of the truth. It means there are secrets so damaging that silence had to be enforced legally. It means the power dynamics we saw on camera were never the real story. The audacity of this alleged move has left longtime viewers stunned. Social media erupted almost instantly, with fans declaring this the confirmation they had waited years for. One viral post captured the sentiment perfectly. We always knew Robyn was running the show. Now we have the receipts. And honestly, after Janelle's account, it's hard to argue otherwise. But to truly understand why Robyn was allegedly so desperate to silence the other wives, we have to look at when this supposedly happened, and that detail changes everything. According to reports, this was not during the height of the family's success. This wasn't when the show was booming and the marriages were intact. This allegedly happened as everything was falling apart. Christine had already walked away. Janelle was clearly on her way out. The family structure was collapsing in real time. In other words, the alleged demand for silence came at the exact moment Robyn had the most to lose. Sources familiar with the situation have described it as a last-ditch attempt to maintain control over a story that was slipping through her fingers. A desperate effort to lock down the narrative before former wives could speak freely on their own terms. And for anyone unfamiliar with how these legal documents work, here's what Robyn was allegedly asking them to sign away. An NDA would have legally prohibited Janelle and Mary from discussing anything deemed confidential about the family, about Robyn, about what truly happened inside those marriages. Breaking it could mean lawsuits, financial penalties, and serious legal consequences. This is the weapon corporations use against employees. This is the tool powerful figures use to silence accusers. And allegedly, this is what Robyn Brown wanted to deploy against the women who spent decades building that family alongside her. The contrast between Robyn's public persona and this alleged behind-the-scenes maneuvering is staggering. On camera, she played the peacemaker, the wife who just wanted unity, who claimed she was trying to hold the family together. Off camera, if these allegations are true, she was preparing to weaponize the legal system against women who had every right to tell their own stories. One longtime viewer summed it up perfectly. Robyn's been playing a character this entire time, and now we're finally seeing who she really is. And here's the most chilling part. The The existence of an NDA demand suggests there are still secrets the public doesn't know. After more than a decade on reality television, what could possibly be so explosive that it required legal silence? Insiders have speculated about financial arrangements, favoritism, manipulation, and the real reasons Kody's relationships with his other wives deteriorated so completely. If even half of this is true, it would dramatically change how the collapse of the Brown family is understood and who bears responsibility for it. What Janelle has revealed about the specific scope of the alleged NDA only deepens the concern. According to those close to the situation, the restrictions weren't limited to genuinely private matters. The NDA allegedly would have covered anything that could be perceived as negative toward Robyn or her relationship with Kody. Let that sink in. This wasn't about medical privacy. It wasn't about protecting children. It was allegedly about ensuring Robyn's version of events remained the only version. And that detail alone speaks volumes about what may have really been happening behind closed doors in the Brown household. They invited cameras into their homes. They allowed viewers to witness their arguments, their tears, their breakdowns, and their attempts to make plural marriage work. They turned their private lives into a multi-million-dollar reality franchise. And now, we are learning that allegedly, while all of this openness was happening on screen, Robyn was simultaneously trying to legally restrict what the other wives could say about the reality behind the reality show. One source close to the situation described the hypocrisy as breathtaking. They made millions letting America watch their lives, the source said, but somehow Robyn thought she alone got to decide which truths were allowed to be told. And that contradiction matters. Because people don't pursue non-disclosure agreements over minor disagreements or petty family squabbles. You don't involve legal documents when the truth is harmless. NDAs are pursued when there is something genuinely damaging, something that could permanently alter public perception if it ever came to light. Industry professionals who have examined this situation have pointed out something critical. The very act of demanding silence creates more suspicion than silence ever could. And they're right. Whatever Robyn was allegedly trying to hide, the attempt to suppress it has now guaranteed one thing. Everyone is asking what those secrets were. Perhaps the most revealing detail of all is that both Janelle and Mary were allegedly targeted at the same time. This wasn't a personal conflict between Robyn and one specific wife. This was, allegedly, a coordinated effort to silence multiple voices simultaneously. Insiders believe Robyn recognized that these two women posed the greatest threat to her narrative, each with decades of first-hand experience that could directly contradict the image she had carefully built. One former associate of the family put it bluntly, Robyn knew they had seen too much. She needed them quiet. That single statement tells you everything about what was really happening inside that family dynamic. The alleged financial implications of these NDAs have only deepened concern. Some sources suggest signing may have been tied to how assets from the show and shared ventures were divided. Others claim the agreements included penalty clauses that would have financially devastated anyone who dared to violate them. If true, this shifts the NDA from a simple confidentiality request into something far darker, financial coercion. Let's be clear about what that means. It means Robyn was allegedly willing to use money as a weapon. It means silence wasn't requested, it was priced. It means telling the truth could have come at a crushing financial cost. But Janelle's response to this alleged demand is what changed everything. She didn't quietly decline. She didn't negotiate. She didn't retreat. She exposed it. And in doing so, she detonated a power structure that had existed inside the Brown family for decades. For years, Janelle was known as the quiet one, the practical one, the wife who avoided drama, stayed focused on logistics, and kept family matters private. Christine was the emotional voice. Mary handled confrontation. Janelle kept things steady and contained. She protected the family image even when it came at a personal cost. That version of Janelle Brown is gone. Sources close to her say the moment the alleged NDA was presented, something shifted permanently. One insider claims Janelle said words that marked the end of an era. "I spent 30 years protecting this family's image. I'm done." And with that decision, the silence that once shielded Robyn's version of events finally shattered. And honestly, can you blame her? This is a woman who devoted her entire adult life to a marriage, to a family, to a belief system that promised unity and protection, only to allegedly be asked, at the very end, to legally bind herself into silence. After decades of loyalty, labor, and sacrifice, the audacity of that request is almost incomprehensible. What makes Janelle's decision to go public even more remarkable is the courage it required. She wasn't just airing private family business. She was directly challenging Robyn's carefully maintained public image, and doing so in a way that could have invited legal retaliation. People familiar with the situation have pointed out something crucial. By speaking out, Janelle effectively called Robyn's bluff. If these NDAs were legitimate, enforceable, and grounded in truth, Robyn would have pursued legal action. Instead, there has been nothing but silence from her camp. And that silence speaks volumes about how defensible her position really is. The transformation in Janelle since leaving the marriage has been nothing short of extraordinary for longtime Sister Wives viewers. This was once the woman who measured every word, avoided taking sides, and stayed far away from public controversy. Now, she is openly discussing alleged manipulation, financial impropriety, and what truly happened behind closed doors. Fans have rallied around her in overwhelming numbers. Social media has been flooded with messages of support and validation. One comment, shared thousands of times, perfectly captured the mood. Janelle finally chose herself, and we are all here for it. And her decision didn't just empower viewers. It sent shockwaves through the extended Brown family and the fan community. People who spent years defending Robyn are now questioning everything. Former friends of the family who stayed silent are reportedly reconsidering whether to share their own experiences. The dam has broken, and Janelle is the one who cracked it open. Let's be brutally honest about what that means. When the person known for being the most level-headed, the most practical, and the most reluctant to engage in public drama finally speaks up, there is a reason. You don't burn bridges like this unless the truth matters more than the fallout. While Janelle was actively pushing back against Robyn's alleged control tactics, Mary's situation was far more complicated, and her role in this NDA drama exposes just how fractured the sister-wife relationships had become. Mary Brown's involvement places her in an impossible position. She was caught between her lingering loyalty to Robyn and her own desire to eventually tell her truth. Unlike Janelle, who had clearly distanced herself long before the alleged NDA demand, Mary maintained a relationship with Robyn even after her marriage to Kody had effectively ended. That connection is what makes her alleged targeting so disturbing. If true, it suggests Robyn was willing to legally bind even the women she considered allies. Whether Mary ultimately signed the alleged NDA or refused has become one of the most hotly debated questions among Sister Wives followers. Sources remain frustratingly tight-lipped. Some believe Mary's continued closeness to Robyn points toward compliance. Others insist she eventually recognized the manipulation and refused to be silenced. One person familiar with the family dynamics described Mary's position as heartbreaking. She wanted so badly to still belong to that family, and it seems like Robyn may have used that desperation against her. If accurate, that assessment reveals a level of calculated exploitation that should make everyone deeply uncomfortable. Adding yet another layer of tension is the recent fallout between Mary's close friend Jen and Janelle. Jen has publicly gone after Janelle on social media, accusing her of betrayal and of twisting narratives for personal gain. But to many fans, that conflict only underscores how disruptive Janelle's truth-telling has been. Because when the silence breaks, the people who benefited from it rarely stay quiet for long. The timing of these accusations is impossible to ignore. They surfaced only after Janelle began speaking more openly about long-buried family secrets, and that alone has fueled intense speculation. Did the alleged NDA situation drive a wedge between Janelle and Mary? Are these sudden attacks and counterattacks really about shutting Janelle down before she reveals even more? Insiders suggest the answer to both questions is likely yes. What makes Mary's position uniquely complicated is her history within the Brown family. She wasn't just another wife. She was the first wife, the legal wife, the foundation on which the entire family structure was built. She also carries the weight of the catfishing scandal that nearly destroyed the family's reputation years ago. Meri arguably knows more, has seen more, and holds more complicated history than anyone else in the Brown family. That's why the idea that Robyn would allegedly attempt to legally silence Meri is so revealing. It suggests there are things Meri knows that could be particularly damaging if ever spoken aloud. One longtime observer put it plainly, Meri has seen everything from the very beginning. If she ever tells her full story, it would be explosive. The relationship between Meri and Janelle has always been strained, marked by tension and friction throughout their decades together. But the alleged NDA situation appears to have created an entirely new and more destructive dynamic. On paper, being targeted by the same alleged manipulation tactic should have united them. Instead, the aftermath has driven them further apart, with Meri's inner circle defending Robyn while Janelle openly exposes her. Whether this division was intentional on Robyn's part or simply collateral damage, the result is the same. The sister wives who might have joined forces to share their experiences are now fractured, isolated, and publicly at odds. And according to insiders, Robyn's need for control didn't begin with NDAs. They say this alleged demand was merely the latest chapter in a much longer pattern, years of calculated maneuvering designed to elevate Robyn's position while slowly marginalizing everyone else. When you step back and examine the full timeline, the consistency is hard to ignore. Viewers who have followed Sister Wives from the beginning have watched this pattern unfold in real time. The alleged NDA push wasn't an isolated incident. It was the culmination of what insiders describe as systematic manipulation meant to position Robyn as Kody's primary wife, both emotionally and legally. Consider how it all began. Robyn entered the family as the fourth wife, joining an already established plural marriage with existing hierarchies, routines, and relationships built over years. Yet within a relatively short period, she became Kody's clear favorite. She legally married him after his divorce from Meri. Her children from a previous relationship were adopted by Kody, further solidifying her position at the center of the family. When you line up these events and view them as a whole, the pattern becomes difficult to dismiss, and it casts the alleged NDA demand in a far more troubling light. Sources who watched this evolution up close have described it as a masterclass in strategic maneuvering. Every move was deliberate. Every emotional display served a purpose. And according to those insiders, Kody was completely oblivious to what was happening right in front of him. The irony of someone so allegedly manipulative being perceived as the innocent, misunderstood wife is almost staggering. The moments where Robyn appeared to influence Kody against his other wives are, frankly, too numerous to count. But certain incidents stand out as especially telling. The tears during family meetings that somehow always ended with Kody siding with her. The private conversations with Kody that were followed by his increasingly harsh treatment of Christine and Janelle. The ways she consistently positioned herself as the reasonable, wounded party while subtly undermining the others. For years, fans documented these patterns. Viewers created timelines, side-by-side clips, and detailed breakdowns of Robyn's alleged tactics. What was once dismissed as paranoia or overanalysis is now being validated by Janelle's revelations. One longtime viewer summed it up perfectly. We were never wrong about her. We just couldn't prove it until now. When you look at it through this lens, the alleged NDA attempt fits perfectly into the broader strategy. Robyn spent years cultivating a very specific public image while securing Kody's loyalty above all others. But as that carefully constructed reality began to collapse, first with Christine walking away, then with Janelle preparing to follow, the options narrowed. If persuasion and emotional manipulation were no longer enough, the final move was control. Insiders describe the alleged NDA demand as a desperate last act. When manipulation stops working, legal force becomes the only option left. What makes this pattern even more disturbing is how long it appears to have gone unrecognized by Kody himself. Multiple sources suggest that, even now, he does not fully acknowledge or accept the possibility that Robyn influenced the family dynamic in this way. He remains convinced that his favoritism was based on compatibility, that his decisions were entirely his own, and that the breakdown of his other marriages rests solely on the shoulders of those wives. In other words, Robyn allegedly played the long game so effectively that even her husband doesn't realize he may have been a pawn. And that brings us to the most unsettling question of all. What role did Kody play in the alleged NDA scheme? Did he know what Robyn was demanding? Or worse, did he approve it? That question has ignited fierce debate among those following this family saga, because the answer fundamentally changes how we understand the final years of the Brown family's plural marriage. And the truth is, neither possibility paints Kody in a flattering light. If Kody was unaware of the alleged NDA push, it suggests a marriage where Robyn operated independently on major legal decisions involving the family, potentially without his knowledge or consent. That would raise serious questions about who is actually in control of that relationship. Some insiders argue this scenario fits Robyn's alleged pattern perfectly, presenting herself as submissive while quietly directing everything behind the scenes. But if Kody did know, and approved, the implications are even worse. That would mean he actively participated in an attempt to legally silence Janelle and Mary, women he was married to for decades, women who bore his children, women he once claimed to love. To try to gag them legally after everything they shared would represent a betrayal so profound it permanently changes how his treatment of his former wives is viewed. Several people close to the situation believe Kody was aware of and supported the NDA effort. One insider claimed he was completely on board with anything that kept them quiet. And when you look at his behavior during the final years of those marriages, that assessment feels disturbingly plausible. The timing aligns. As the relationships unraveled, Kody became increasingly hostile toward any wife who challenged him. He publicly dismissed Janelle and Christine's concerns as attacks. Privately, his behavior reportedly grew more controlling and vindictive. An NDA demand fits seamlessly into that pattern, punishing anyone who refused to fall in line with his and Robyn's version of events. One former family friend described Kody's transformation as heartbreaking. He used to at least pretend to value all his relationships. By the end, it was clear only Robyn mattered. Critics have also pointed to Kody and Robyn's parenting choices and leadership style as evidence of deeper issues. Their children became increasingly isolated. Family dynamics raised alarms among viewers and commentators alike. In that context, the idea of using legal threats against family members is disturbing, but not surprising. When control becomes more important than connection, NDAs are just another tool. Let's be brutally honest about what Kody's involvement, whether active or passive, reveals. This is a man who married 4 women under the banner of faith and family. He made lifelong commitments, built homes, raised children, and when those marriages ended, the response, at least allegedly, was to suppress the truth rather than confront it. And the fallout from this exposure is already spreading beyond the adults. The Brown children have watched their family fall apart in public for years. Janelle's revelation about the alleged NDA attempt appears to have been a breaking point. Sources say the kids are done staying neutral. Janelle's children, particularly Garrison, Gabe, and Madison, have become increasingly vocal about their views on Robyn and her role in the family's collapse. The NDA exposure has only intensified those feelings, with insiders saying the children see it as confirmation of everything they long suspected about Robyn's true nature. Garrison Brown, in particular, has never been subtle about how he feels about Robyn or about Kody's treatment of his mother.